Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and checking your phone. Your bank account says $100 million. You think it's a glitch. Then your friends start texting. They also got $100 million. Your parents got $100 million. Your neighbors got $100 million. Even the guy selling snacks down the street got $100 million. Suddenly, everyone is rich. No more poverty. No more financial stress. No more worrying about bills. Sounds like the perfect solution, right? In fact, millions of people around the world have asked the same question. If money solves problems, why can't governments just print more money and give it to everyone? At first, the idea sounds brilliant. Governments control the money printers. Banks create money. People need money. Problem solved. But here's the strange part. If everyone suddenly became rich overnight, most people would actually become poorer. That sounds impossible. How can getting more money make you poorer? To understand why, let's imagine a small island. On this island, there are only 100 people. Together, they have a total of $10,000, and there are only 100 loaves of bread available. Since money and goods are balanced, a loaf of bread costs about $100. Now imagine the government suddenly prints another $90,000 and gives it to everyone. The island now has $100,000 in circulation. But there's a problem. The number of bread loaves is still 100. Nobody baked more bread. Nobody produced more food. Nothing new was created. There is simply more money chasing the same amount of stuff. Now everybody rushes to buy bread. The baker notices something. People have way more cash than before. Instead of charging $100 per loaf, he raises the price, then raises it again, then again. Soon the loaf costs $1,000. The bread didn't become better. The money became weaker. And that's the secret most people miss. Money itself isn't wealth. The things money can buy are wealth: food, houses, cars, computers, medicine, electricity, services, skills, factories, products. Money is just the tool we use to exchange those things. Printing more money doesn't magically create more food. It doesn't build more houses. It doesn't manufacture more smartphones. It doesn't train more doctors. It only increases the number of paper bills or digital numbers. Think of money like tickets at an amusement park. If there are 100 rides and 100 tickets, everything works fine. But if the park suddenly prints 10,000 extra tickets without adding new rides, people will fight over the same rides. The tickets become less valuable. The rides become more expensive. This is called inflation. And inflation is the biggest reason. Governments can't simply print everyone into wealth. Many people assume economists invented this warning, but history already tested it. Several countries tried solving financial problems by printing enormous amounts of money, and the results became some of the strangest moments in human history. Imagine going to a store with a wheelbarrow full of cash, not because you're rich, because the money is almost worthless. That actually happened. One famous example was the country of Germany during the early 1920s. After World War I, the government faced huge debts. Instead of collecting enough taxes or increasing production, more money was printed. At first, things seemed okay. Then prices started rising, then rising faster, then completely spiraling out of control. Workers were paid multiple times a day because prices changed every hour. People rushed from work to stores before prices increased again. Some families burned money for heat because it became cheaper than firewood. Think about that. Money became less useful than wood. Another famous example happened in Zimbabwe. The government printed more and more currency. Eventually, inflation became so extreme that trillion-dollar notes appeared. People literally became billionaires and trillionaires on paper. Yet many still struggle to buy basic necessities. Why? Because having more zeros doesn't create more products. A loaf of bread doesn't care how many zeros are on your banknote. Its value depends on supply and demand. When confidence in money disappears, prices explode. The entire economy starts malfunctioning. Businesses stop planning. Investors stop investing. People rush to spend money immediately before it loses value. Saving becomes pointless. Chaos spreads. And that's why central banks are extremely careful. Their goal isn't to make everyone rich overnight. Their goal is to keep money stable. Stable money helps businesses invest. Stable money helps workers save. Stable money helps economies grow. Because real prosperity comes from producing more goods and services, not from creating more currency. A country becomes richer when it builds factories, creates technology, improves education, increases productivity, develops infrastructure, discovers innovations. Those activities create actual value. Printing money simply changes the numbers, and changing numbers is very different from creating wealth. Here's a question. What is the richest thing on earth? Is it gold, cash, diamonds, No, the richest thing on earth is productivity. A farmer growing food, an engineer building machines, a programmer creating software, a doctor saving lives, a factory producing products. These activities create value. Imagine two countries. Country A prints billions of dollars. Country B builds factories, schools, roads, and businesses. 10 years later, which country is richer? Country BN. Because wealth comes from production, not paper. Money is only a measuring tool. Just like a ruler measures length, printing longer rulers doesn't make things longer. Printing more money doesn't make a country richer. Real wealth is created when people solve problems and produce useful things. That's why countries focus on growth. More businesses, more innovation, more technology, more productivity. When production increases, more goods enter the economy, and now more money can exist without causing huge inflation. This balance is extremely important. Economists often describe it simply. More money is okay if there are also more goods and services. Problems begin when money grows much faster than production. Then prices start climbing, and purchasing power starts falling. The economy works best when both sides grow together. Money supply and economic output. One without the other creates imbalance. And imbalance creates inflation. So why can't banks simply print enough money for everyone? Because money is not the thing we actually want. What we want are the things money buys. Food, homes, healthcare, comfort, freedom, security, experiences. Printing money creates the illusion of wealth. Creating value creates real wealth. That's the difference. Imagine every player in a video game suddenly gets unlimited coins. The coins lose meaning. The rare items become more expensive. The economy breaks. Real-world economies work in a similar way. Money only has value because it's relatively limited, and people trust it. Once that trust disappears, the entire system begins shaking. That's why central banks carefully control how much money enters circulation. Not too little, not too much, just enough to support economic growth. The goal isn't to make everyone rich overnight. The goal is to create an environment where people can become richer over time. And that's the final lesson. The path to prosperity isn't printing more money. It's creating more value, building more businesses, developing better technology, improving productivity, producing more goods and services. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't paper. Wealth is what paper can buy. And that's why the answer to the question, why can't the government just print enough money for everyone, is surprisingly simple. Because if everyone has more money, but nothing new is produced, nobody is actually richer. The numbers get bigger, the value stays the same, and sometimes it becomes even smaller. The next time someone says, just print more money, you know why economists get nervous. Because history has shown again and again that the easiest solution often creates the biggest problems. Money can be printed. Wealth cannot. Wealth must be created.